You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. I was going to say welcome to the Cricket World Cup, but that isn't what it is it? This is the Cricket Podcast. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Max Rowe-Brown. We will be talking about the T20 Cricket World Cup. We're about 2/3 of the way through the Super 8 stage, and Max, there is drama.
There is. We've had shocks all throughout the tournament. They've not stopped. The big boys. Afghanistan have notched up. Well, Mohammed Nabi's notched up his 46th country in his long career.
Yeah, they have. I thought you were going to make another point after that, but you didn't. You just stopped.
I didn't.
Fair enough. As Max said, or as I said, we'll be talking about the Super 8s. We've got Group 1, we've got Group 2, we've got speculation on who make the semi-final. We've got India being really good, USA crashing back down to earth, and why are Bangladesh still in the tournament? Plus, probably a little bit more. Before we get going, though, just a tip to Manscaped, who are sponsoring this podcast. You can head over to manscaped.com and use the code CricketPod for 20% off and free shipping. That is in the show notes. But once again, if you're just going to use your fingers to type, it's manscaped.com. And the code you need is CricketPod, and that will give you 20% off plus free shipping. Max, we've got two groups of cricket. We'll talk about all of the 8 games that I think we've seen so far. Why don't you summarise Group 1 to begin with? Then I'll summarise Group 2. And actually, why don't we do it like this? We'll talk about Group 1, and then we'll talk about Group 2 later.
What a great idea. And then we can put a break in the middle.
Yes.
And insert some ads.
Seamless. Take it away with Group 1.
Right. Group 1. We started Group 1 with India against Afghanistan. And very much as you'd expect, India notching up a very comprehensive win. They put up 181 off their 20 overs with Suryakumar Yadav starring with a 53 off 28 balls. Afghanistan never really threatened. They lost wickets early, and that's pretty much how you stop Afghanistan winning a game of cricket. And it was pretty comfortable. And India continued to look pretty strong, basically, as they have done all throughout this tournament. Next up in Group 1, Bangladesh, Australia. It was curtailed by rain, the Australian chase, but they, again, were never in doubt. It was all very much par for the course, really, as you'd expect in the first couple of games. Bangladesh, 140 for 8, not really ever going to be enough to trouble Australia in this particular game. And they made light work of it until the rain came. They were 102, well ahead of DLS. Don't know how the DLS maths works with net run rate. That could be an interesting point for later in the group. But 2 games in, 2 wins for the big boys, all very sensible, isn't it? All as you would expect. And that continued into the 3rd game. India playing Bangladesh. India notched up a 196 for 5. This time it was Hardik Pandya with a 50. And everyone contributed a bit. It was nice to see Shivam Dubey get a few runs and blast a few sixes, and India getting into their groove and looking quite strong. And again, Bangladesh never really had a hope. A really strong bowling performance. Kuldeep doing the damage early on, and Arshdeep finishing things up as Bangladesh limped to a 50-run defeat. India were through. No problems there. But the big one was last night. And I mean, I have to say, well done to Ricken in the Patreon Discord, who predicted this. He told us all to lump your money on Afghanistan because Afghanistan were going to win this game. And boy, did they win this game. It was a tricky pitch. The ball was doing bits first up. Pat Cummins won the toss and decided to bowl, which was surprised a few people because it's been a bit tricky chasing on the surface. But, you know, if you've got a good bowling attack and you think you can make light work of the Afghanistan lineup, then why not go for it? He was happy with his decision, but Gurbaz and Zadran saw out the first few tricky overs, and they put on yet another partnership of over 100 for the first wicket. Those two so key to the way Afghanistan go about their batting. And, they sort of faltered a bit once those two fell, but they'd done the damage already. And 148, it's not a big score, but it's a tricky score to get in in those conditions, and so it proved with a blistering opening spell from Naveen to remove Travis Head and Mitchell Marsh we foxed with a slow ball, and then it was over to Gilbert and Naib, who became unplayable overnight as Australia, they faltered big time. Apart from Glenn Maxwell's 50, no one really got the measure of the pitch or the bowling. They were undone by slower balls. They were quite poor with the bat, really, overall. And Afghanistan were highly impressive in the field with the ball. And it was a real statement win from Afghanistan. They restricted Australia to 127, 21 run run, and that has blown the doors of Group 1 in the Super 8s wide open, Jack.
Yep. Only one correction, which is good for a summary. Apparently, Mitchell Marsh is the captain, not Pat Cummins. But
yes, correct.
Pat Cummins did take 2 consecutive hat tricks.
He did take 2 consecutive.
Maybe if you take 2 consecutive hat tricks, you just should be the captain, or maybe you should have just been the captain anyway.
He should be the captain anyway. He wins all the games.
Yes,
he does everything well,
apart from the IPL final, of course. And technically didn't win the Ashes, retained them, but didn't win that as well. So. I'm just saying, like I'm providing some balance.
It's details, details.
Max, I think Australia were a bit complacent here. I think they picked a bit of a weird team by not selecting Mitchell Starc. Now, I know Mitchell Starc hasn't had a great tournament. He's taken 3 wickets in 4 matches, but that's T20 cricket. Things kind of blow hot and cold. We saw him in the IPL be awful for like 10 games and then
suddenly
get really
not
good
awful anymore.
Yeah, get really good near the end. The other thing is, like, you can be quite a casual cricket watching fan and know that Afghanistan, it basically comes down to Gurbaz or bust.
Yeah,
they've got one guy who might actually be the best player in the tournament so far. He's got the most runs. He's striking at 141. It's pretty close between him and Puran at the top. Similar-ish numbers for the pair of them. After that, they've not really got a lot in the tank. I know Zadran scored some runs, but they're slow runs. They're not dangerous runs. They're accumulated runs that will help Afghanistan lose by less.
Well, they're valuable in a game like this one, but in general, he's not going to take a game away from you. Yeah,
absolutely. Gurbaz can actually beat you. He opens the batting. I don't really understand Australia not picking the guy who's probably most likely to get him out. Explain that to me first of all.
I can only think that they were holding him back to be fully fresh for the India game, which is it's a huge mistake, isn't it? Because if you win these 2 games, you're basically through, right? With the group that you're in, Bangladesh aren't going to surprise anyone. Afghanistan are the next threat. You've got Bangladesh out of the way. You get Afghanistan out of the way, and then you might not have a fully firing Mitchell Starc for the India game, but it doesn't really matter because you're through to the semi-finals, and at that point, whoever you're playing is going to be good and tough to beat. You don't know what's going on in the other group, so just do what you need to do. And I agree. I just with the sort of the way they played as well. I mean, with the bat, I think I don't think they showed enough respect early up. Having seen what the ball was doing, the Travis Head dismissal, for example, I know that's the way he goes about opening the batting in T20 cricket, and it's brilliant to see, and we love it. But also, sometimes you can play a defensive shot. I mean, that ball that Naveen bowled was outrageous, like what it did off the pitch. But that lends you to another part of that decision to pick that side. You look at that pitch and what it did for the seamers early up, and you're thinking Mitchell Starc is the perfect bowler for those conditions. And the other thing you say, like you don't need to be a cricket aficionado to realize is that Mitchell Starc is a lot better than Ashton Agar.
That is true. That is definitely true.
He let 2 boundaries through his legs as well. So
he returns fine figures. 4 overs, 17 for none. Like that's okay. But I'll just really impress it upon people. The way you beat Afghanistan is you get Gurbaz out, and then you basically win. Like Dan made a really good point. Gurbaz is quite far from their best player. They've got a number of bowlers who, in like a free market auction scenario, are worth more than a Gurbaz. They're better players.
Yes.
I mean, like Rashid Khan, the primary example, but Noor Ahmed is a great player as well, and Fazlat Faruqi and Naveen have had great tournaments and are
Well, all
deserving
four
of
of
the
them.
contracts they get. Yeah,
All four
they're
of
all
them are
pretty.
IPL regulars.
Yeah, they're probably better than Gurbaz, but Gurbaz for this Afghanistan team is the most important player because he's the one batter who can get them to 150 and can get them to scores in excess of that on occasion as well. And I mean that against like the top quality bowlers here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if they're playing Ireland, there's a few of them that can be relied upon. But against the top teams, it's Gurbaz or it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know. Is Ashton Agar the choice there? Is he the one that you want taking the first ball, the most dangerous over? Probably not for me, but I'm a traditionalist, I guess. I thought for Afghanistan as well. Obviously, it's a huge moment for them. Max, did you say it was the 48th team that Mohammed Nabi?
46, I think.
46. That must be the most in world cricket, like because nobody else has played that many. Like,
No.
you know, obviously, if India did play Rwanda or whatever, they turn him over, but they're never going to. So
he's the Steve Finnan of international cricket, Mohammed Nabi.
Yeah, he is. We talked about their journey a load. I thought the thing in this game that I don't know if it was like the completion of the journey, but it exercised a ghost from another story beat in their journey. Obviously, at the World Cup, I'm talking about Glenn Maxwell's double century here that effectively eliminated Afghanistan when they had a 50-over World Cup semi-final potentially within their grasp. Here, he's on 59 of 40 balls. He's looking pretty good. It looks like he's literally going to repeat the trick. Nobody else can bat. Like the next best scorer of the team is 12. Extras get 16. Like, or extras is next. Then it's Mitch Marsh on 12. But Glenn Maxwell is looking good. And then Noor Ahmed takes a really, really good catch. The complete polar opposite to how Afghanistan dealt with Maxwell at the World Cup when they were dropping him for fun. It was quite a special moment, I thought, Max.
Yeah, I think it's kind of reminiscent of Afghanistan, their journey, and how they've come to be one of the, well, not big boys, but they're a force now in world cricket that should be respected and viewed as one of the major nations. And like this, I wouldn't say it's a culmination, but it's evidence of how they progressed and how they're now showing the maturity as an international side. They know how to win games, and this will help. I mean, this game will help them massively in that respect. And you know, knowing that you can do this, we know we're going to get over the line. We've got the skills to compete, and it's massive for them as a cricketing nation. And it's a real contrast to a team like Bangladesh, who you've been looking at in the last 5 or 6, maybe even 10 years to do the same sort of thing, and they haven't. Years. Yeah, they haven't really got there, have they? I mean, they've beaten Australia. They had wins like that, but you never really looked at them thinking like, yeah, look, this is a side that's developing and getting there. They got to a kind of a point in their journey and then plateaued a bit, and they haven't managed to get over the line. And obviously, there's wider things in the machinations and the structure of international cricket that make it a bit difficult to get over that line. So it's Afghanistan's turn now with this win to see if they can break into the polyopoly of international cricket. And I think a semi-final in this tournament would be a real good show of doing that, but long way to go yet. Yeah,
well, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. They've got to beat Bangladesh handily, and
yeah,
they're in really good shape. It's a bit needle in this game as well, isn't there? Like I've seen a little bit of reaction from people on the internet. Obviously, Australia,
the best kind of people on the internet.
Yeah, Australia refused to go or to play Afghanistan. Because of the Afghan government, and I think a lot of the players, at least the Afghan players, who maybe aren't affiliated with the Taliban themselves, thought that was a little bit harsh from Australia's point of view, and there was various social media posts about that. There'll be kind of a quiet satisfaction, or maybe even a loud satisfaction, I think, from some of the Afghan players after that. So fair play to Afghanistan. Max, we should talk about India a little bit. I'm not talking about Bangladesh; they're rubbish.
The bowling's all right. They've got a couple of exciting young up and coming bowlers, but they still can't bat, so they're half a cricket team.
India, they rumble on, probably still the favourites for the World Cup at this stage, aren't they?
I'd say more so than the start of the tournament. I mean, obviously, I mean, we've seen a couple of teams drop out, haven't we? England they're not on the brink, but they're in danger. Australia are in big danger. So if those two fall, they're huge favourites, right? So I mean, the dials move towards, but not just with the teams that have fallen out. I think the way the games have gone, the way the pitches have played, it's just looks every bit like it suits India and the way they play, and they're playing well as well. Their bowlers are in form, and their batting's coming into a bit of form as well. After at the start of the tournament, I think it had been looking like Kohli and Rohit were kind of as we'd predicted, perhaps not really the best opening partnership that India could have had from the players available, and going a bit slowly. But it's even signs from, it's Bangladesh, but signs from that game that maybe they're cutting loose a little bit, and Suryakumar Yadav's back in form. Hardik Pandya's having a good tournament, and he should thank me for that, as I predicted him as my top flop for the World Cup. So it just seems to be coming together nicely for India, doesn't it? So I think, from both sides of the tournament, the way it's playing out, and just how India have been performing, I'm looking at them and thinking they're top dog, big time.
Yeah, I mean, we should remember that
we're not at the knockouts yet.
You get through the semi-finals, or you get through the Super 8s rather, and then basically it's going to be two 50-50s. So India are going to have to play West Indies, England, or South Africa in the next round, and they might be a marginal favourite. Well, they probably are a marginal favourite against any of them, but we're looking at like 55-45. We're not looking at like Australia v Afghanistan, where Australia were like 9-1 on, a huge favourite.
Really?
We're looking at a really, really close. Yeah. We're looking at a really, really close one. And, to take that example of the Australia-Afghanistan game, weird shit happens in cricket. And really weird shit happens in T20 cricket. So, I think they're most likely to win the World Cup of all the teams, but we're still talking like 30% or 35%.
Yeah, probably. But I think that's up from the start of the tournament.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think the bowling especially is, Jasprit Bumrah is surpassing himself.
Yeah.
It's a bowling attack that you can adapt as they did in this game by bringing in Kuldeep, or go seam heavy if you feel the need to by playing Siraj, and then with Hardik bowling the way he is, you've got even more flexibility. He's having a really, really good tournament, I think, Hardik. Most impressive with the ball, but adds a 50 in the last game, and that India team looks pretty balanced. I think the big hope.
Bumrah's averaging 6.5 with the ball.
Yeah, well, it's ludicrous. You have to remember a little bit that they did play on the hell pitch in New York, so there's a little bit to that, but even trying to throw a little bit of shade like that, you can't really go that far. He's been ludicrously good. He's completely off the scale at the moment, and really has been over his T20 career. Missed the last World Cup obviously with a back injury. When he's fit, I don't really know what you can do about him. You just have to hope that 2 or 3 other players have an off day, and that can happen. And that's really what you got to hope for if you do come up against India, I think. Bax, that's 20 minutes on Group 1. Is there anything you want to say? We should probably say who's going to go through, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Are we doing that now? We're doing that now, are we?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah.
India are going to go through.
India go through. Yeah, Afghanistan. It's going to happen. I think India will beat Australia.
Well, that effectively is what it is, isn't it? Australia have got to beat India, and as we were saying, India look like the best team. They've got the best bowling attack.
India will beat Australia.
A lot of the best batters. And what? Look, from an India point of view, if you beat Australia, then you don't have
Yeah.
to play Australia in the final,
That is
which
true.
is potentially a complication. Would be really funny, wouldn't it? If I mean, like, just from a cricket point of view here, if India did beat Australia and then Afghanistan lost to Bangladesh and Australia went through with one win.
I mean, again, that could happen.
It definitely could happen. I don't know precisely what the net run rate swing is. So it's 0.8 net runs is the current difference, and what does that work out to? Like, Bangladesh have to win by Afghanistan have to win by 30 odd, 40 odd, and hope that because Australia, if they lose that game to India, the run rate is definitely going to go down. Even if they lose by 1 run, it's going to go down by a third. And Afghanistan's will definitely go up, obviously, if they win. So it's not like a massive victory that they need, but they do need to win with a degree of comfort to ensure that an Australian victory. Anyway, I don't know. I don't even know if that matters. Net run rate sucks. I really hate net run rate. But okay, so we're in agreement. I think Australia are going to go through. I think that's what I should have said. That instead of talking about
what do you think that's going to be? Australia beating India?
Yeah, I think they will.
Yeah,
it
would be very Australia to do that.
It would be very Australia, and
I'm a dreamer.
I think it would be kind of quite India to let Australia through and then lose them in the final as well. So,
yeah, that's true. The narrative definitely has Australia getting through
to knock Australia out and to blow both of them. So, yeah, that's kind of what I suspect might happen. I think Bangladesh beating Afghanistan is like on as well. I think that's like a 50-50 game, to be honest. Maybe not 50-50.
Same venue as well. So, if we get a similar sort of pitch, then if Bangladesh's bowlers are decent as well, if they manage to nick out Gurbaz and Zadran, then who knows?
Well, even if they don't get Zadran out, just let him get 60. 60 or 50 is not going to hurt Bangladesh. It's nice. They're nice runs. They're the sort of runs where at the end of season awards, you get top batter of the year and you get your little trophy and everyone pats you on the back, buys you a drink.
But you finish fifth.
Everyone actually knows that the best player is Gurbaz, who doesn't get anything. That makes sense. Anyway, Max, we're gonna take a break and we're gonna come back and talk about group number 2.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast for part 2 of this show, which will feature Group 2 at the T20 World Cup Super 8s. Before we get into things, just to mention, we are sponsored by Serious Cricket. If you need cricket equipment and you are based in the UK, then Serious Cricket are the guys for you. That's where we get all of our stuff. I used it yesterday. I got 8 runs and I got caught by a team who dropped 10 catches.
Nice.
Which was disappointing. Very disappointing, actually. But, I'm sure my luck will change. And if it doesn't, I'll buy a new cricket bat for hundreds of pounds and that will change my luck with cash. You should do that too by going to Serious Cricket.
If you're bad at cricket, buy a new bat.
Yes, and if you're good at cricket, you probably need a new bat anyway because gone through your old bat.
You've used your bat's broken now.
Yeah, or a new pair of gloves. I don't know. Buy some cricket stuff. I think that's what I'm saying. Max, Group 2 of the T20 World Cup started like this.
Tell me about it.
West Indies and hold on, I've gone to the wrong game, which is a pretty diabolical start. West Indies lost to England. There we go. Now we're into things. England, they turned up. England have played really hot and cold in this tournament. I'm sure we'll get to this as a talking point. This was the hot England. They smashed West Indies, battered them, completely annihilated them. And that had major implications, not just for the points they gained, but for the net run rate, which will come into play later, no doubt. Then we saw. This is all weird. I've got the games up in the wrong order here, I think. So just bear with me as we go.
South Africa, USA was the first one.
I've not even talked about that. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go back in time. On the West Indies, England. That was more important. The day before that, on Wednesday, Max, South Africa beat the United States by 18 runs. South Africa, they batted first, notched up 194, which looked really good from a South African point of view. Like it looked like that would be a nice net run rate boost, and they'd set themselves up similarly to how England would set themselves up the day after for a relatively easy qualification into the next round. However, the USA had other ideas. Andries Gauss. I think Goose is better, and also that's the name of the guy in Top Gun,
Gauss.
Isn't it? Wait, is Goose the one that dies in Top Gun?
Yeah. Spoilers.
This one didn't die. He got 80 off 47, not out, carried his bat. It wasn't really enough to win the game for USA. And bizarrely, he only faced 47 balls as well. So everyone else was hogging the strike. And maybe if he'd faced 13 more, he'd have got the century that probably would have won USA the game. However, what it did mean, Max, is they got within 20 runs. And that really blew South Africa's chance at getting themselves into a great position vis-a-vis that net run rate. So after two games, we had England and South Africa top of the group, England with the better net run rate, and England having played West Indies, one of the big three in that group, leaving England in a good position. However, Max, Friday, things turned around a little bit. South Africa v England. South Africa, they batted first, and England bowled very well, I thought. They restricted the South Africans to just 163 runs. Quinton de Kock, the star of the show, he got away early, 65 off 38. And then from an England point of view, everyone either didn't go for very many runs or they got wickets, except Sam Curran and Mark Wood, who didn't do either of those things, went for runs and didn't get any wickets. That's the story of that. In response, though, England found it pretty difficult going, and the strong South African bowling attack really stood up for itself. They removed the danger men, Salt and Butler early. Jonny Bairstow, who is inexplicably batting number 3 instead of Phil Salt, he got 16 off 20. And despite a fight back from Harry Brook and Liam Livingstone, actually, I mean, like, England should have won the game. They needed 25 off 17 balls with Brook and Livingstone still at the crease.
That's like 70-30 at that point.
I think even more. I think like 80-20, maybe even more than that. South Africa pulled the reverse bottle. I think we'll say what you want about South Africa. And I'm kind of mixing talking points in with the summary here, which isn't very good. South Africa, they've hired a mental coach, and this is the first tournament that they've had this guy there. South Africa have won like every game by the skin of their teeth. Or like every game has been close, and they've had to show some bottle, and they've had to like be mentally pretty tough. And when the chips are down, in every single one of those games, someone has stood up, and it's been different people the whole way through the tournament. In this game, it was Amrik Nortje in the final over. Fair play, South Africa. They beat England. It's a fairly narrow win, so it doesn't hurt England's net run rate too badly. It doesn't boost South Africa's that much. And so into the night time, when the United States get pounded by West Indies, 128 bowled out, West Indies chased that down in just 11 overs. We're left with a fairly difficult group to interpret. So this is what I think the situation is, Max.
Yeah.
South Africa v West Indies is a de facto knockout game because England will beat the USA, and that will put them above either South Africa on net run rate if South Africa lose to West Indies, or above West Indies on points because West Indies will have lost 2 of their 3 matches. I know people like to be like, oh, England are in trouble and blah 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 blah. England are through.
Well,
it's a knockout game between South Africa and West Indies.
There's one slight caveat to that, which is, as always with cricket, Jack, the weather. So England are playing the USA in Bridgetown in Barbados today, and or this will probably, by the time you listen to it, it might be yesterday, and one of us will have seen what's happened. But there is rain around, potentially. So there's a possibility that basically, I'm looking at the Met Office forecast, and it says 40% chance of rain for the entire day. So, I mean, probably it will. I'd say the likelihood is it will be shortened, which could, I don't know, increase the chance of an upset or reduce the chance of England winning by a large margin. I don't feel they don't need a large margin, but a margin that gets them over the line. So there is still the opportunity for a bit of shenanigans with the weather gods to curtail England's World Cup. But in the absence of weather, I would generally agree with you that England should be fine.
I don't want to talk too much about weather. I reckon this will be like Caribbean rain. So there is going to be a massive downpour at some point.
But it's really windy, so it'll blow over in no time.
Other points. Well, it might not. Maybe England will go out because it rained. Which
would be funny.
Max, we should probably talk about some of the games. Maybe England v South Africa is the one to start with. Probably the best game that was featured. Someone wants us to talk about Markram's catch. It was a very good catch. There you go. Talked about it. Diving. It's a good fielder, Markram, actually. Really, really good fielder. And
Reza Hendricks took a snorter of a catch as well.
So there's two good catches. I want to talk specifically in the game, though, about England's decision to bench Phil Salt. And by Phil Salt, I mean Will Jacks. Max, can you talk me through this one?
He hasn't really fired, has he, in the tournament so far? And I think it may just be a case of giving themselves extra options with the ball. I think maybe they don't value his. I mean, they tried him bowling the first over from time to time with mixed results. They've got obviously Liam Livingstone, who, hey, did you know he can bowl leg spin and off spin? And then Sam Curran, another left-hander, which didn't really matter by the time he came in. But I'm just thinking it's something that I feel like England maybe overthinking it too much, trying to give themselves more options with the ball, I suppose, in case things don't go quite to plan. I mean, they didn't even use Livingstone with the ball in the end. But I do wonder if they're what the value is, because if they're using Moeen Ali quite a lot, they've got Liam Livingstone or Will Jacks to bowl an over or two to fill in. I don't see the huge value in Sam Curran over someone like Will Jacks, who is so good with the bat when he's on it. And yeah, maybe the left-hander thing comes into it, because you look at the figures. I mean, Maharaj is the pick of the bowlers, 2 for 25 or 4 overs, and he's got Josh Buttler, he's got Jonny Bairstow, and Moeen Ali's coming at 4 for the left-hand option. But do you want Moeen Ali in at 4 in this England team? Is that his best position? Probably not. You might want him a bit lower down. So overthinking it, too many right-handers. We spoke about it at the start of the tournament. We didn't know if it was a big issue. And then the other thing that you pointed out quite fairly at the start of the tournament was that Will Jacks is very good against the ball turning away from him. So you almost, he's almost, it's as if he is a left-hander with his matchup stats. So I think it's a mistake, but I can see the reasoning behind it and what they're trying to achieve. But I don't know if it's necessarily that beneficial in terms of winning games of cricket. But I'm a Surrey fan, so I'm biased, and I love Will Jacks.
Yeah, well, I think that's fair. He's a good player. I think it leaves on batter light as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think.
Well, Jofra coming in at 8's not.
Yeah, who's batting 9 as well? Like Mark Wood or Adil Rashid, and neither of them are good options. And
this England side has been picked as if they're bowling first and they've got an impact sub.
It is like that. It is exactly like that, and they're just going to bring Will Jacks off the bench for Adil Rashid at
Adil Rashid, yeah.
half time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also don't love it because I don't think there's any secret about how England want to bat. They want to be quite aggressive. They don't really want to worry about their wickets too much, and they picked a load of players who get out a hell of a lot but score runs really fast.
Yeah.
There's not really any of those players. Literally, the whole top six, with the exception of Butler here, who you do have to put to one side because he's a bit of a freak. All of the rest of them will be bang average or worse than average in terms of balls per dismissal. So they are going to get out. Your number 8 is going to have to bat.
Yeah.
And if your number 8 is Joff, that is probably a little bit of a problem. Or if they all decide to bat in a different way, then none of them are really playing to their strength.
Yeah.
Like the strength of Bairstow and the strength of Moeen Ali is that they are able to score runs really, really quickly. Bairstow gets 16 off 20. They're basically like getting through some balls because they know that if one of them is out, then they're quite close to Jofra Archer coming in a scenario where England need 10 and over off 3 overs. And that isn't a scenario that you want to be in. I think it just leaves them. I think it leaves them imbalanced from that batting point of view. And then if you look at what Will Jacks brings to the table, like he's better than Bairstow, he's better than Moeen Ali, he's better than Harry Brook, and he's probably better than Liam Livingstone at batting. So why isn't he in the team ahead of any of those 4 players? I think it's a completely fair point.
It's what when I say England are overthinking it, I think
maybe they're underthinking it.
Well, no, I think it's what I'm trying. I think they're overthinking one aspect and they're forgetting the fundamentals of what you're saying about how they go about cricket and how they go about their T20 cricket, and then what you need to put in place to make that successful. The ideal England scenario is that their top 7 all score 30 or 15. Basically, that's what they're gunning for as an average.
Yeah, there's no problem with being that team, but you have to lean into it. You have to actually be that team. You can't kind of half commit.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe some people, if you actually look at Will Jack's stats in T20 eyes, he has he's batted 15 times and he averages 17 at this point in time. So you could maybe fairly say, if you were an England selector or the coach, that he hasn't actually done it for us. But he's done it against like literally all these guys, the same guys
who are really good.
The same guys, just wearing a different coloured kit in a bunch of tournaments. I really don't think that you can afford, any team in the world can afford to not have the player that destroyed Rashid Khan like he did in when he hit that ton for RCB. I just don't think the rest of the team. I don't think there is a team in the world that is good enough to look at that guy and be like, no, we don't need him. We don't need the guy who got 60 off 12 balls against Rashid Khan. Yeah. We'll have Jonny Bairstow. Thanks.
I'm not even. I'm not even sold on like having Jonny Bairstow in the team anymore. Like, he didn't have a good IPL. I'm questioning. Is he? Is he part? I don't want to say the words. I don't want to say the words.
He is past it. I think. I don't.
He snapped his leg in half.
The guy's 35-ish.
Yeah,
he's 34 in 271 days. So I think we can say at this point
we can round
35.
Up. Yeah,
like.
If he were a child, I'd be saying 34 3/4.
Not really having a great tournament. He did batter the West Indies around a little bit, but I'd say Phil Salt did most of the hard work there.
Yeah.
It's easy to smash people around when Phil Salt scored 87 or 47 at the other end. The pressure is off.
Yeah, no, I think that Hendricks catch of Phil Salt was huge in this game, because I think Phil Salt's been the guy for England this tournament, hasn't he? He's looked the most on it, and I think he would potentially have won this game for England. It's a big moment.
Yeah. Anyway, we talked a lot about England there. A team we've barely talked about for this whole tournament is West Indies. It's a difficult one to find talking points for West Indies in a way, because they lose pretty badly to England and then they absolutely destroy the USA.
And to their credit, they're the first
good?
team that's really done that to the USA, right?
Yeah.
have run everyone
USA.
reasonably close. They've been really impressive. So it's you can look at that West Indies win like, oh yeah, it's USA, but actually, like I think that's more impressive than it looks. And when you said England are blown hot and cold, West Indies are basically the same.
They are. I think they're kind of a little bit boom or busty as well, aren't they? I'd really like to see them go through. I'm kind of supporting West Indies, I think, in this tournament. I think it would be fun to have knockout cricket in the Caribbean with a West Indies team that are quite good. Maybe coming up against India. Like that would be, I think if I was going to pick, I know this is harsh for South Africa, to be honest, because South Africa could go out of this tournament having lost literally one game, where England and West Indies will go through with a loss more each, having played far less convincing cricket probably overall. I would like to see the West Indies go through because I think that is the ideal semi-final: West Indies v India, with because you don't see India play in front of an away crowd.
No.
That never happens. And actually, in Guyana, you still might not see that, but you might. and hopefully the West Indies do. Like, if this does happen, they'd rally round, and I think it
would be nice just to see a crowd.
Yeah. I do think some of the scheduling for this is partly to blame. Like, I didn't they had 3 games in 3 days at 10:30 in the morning in St. Lucia.
Yeah,
it's like there's not that many people in St. Lucia. The number of people from St. Lucia, you're talking like 10% of the population would have to turn up to watch, like USA South Africa or England South Africa or whatever. Like, it's not happening, is it? It's just, and no one's going from England because you didn't know whether you'd be in the next round. So I don't know. I think the scheduling is partly to blame for that. People always say, "Oh, there's no crowds in the West Indies." I mean, they're tiny islands, and of the full population of St. Lucia, I don't know if I've been to the stadium. It's actually not really near anything. It's in kind of the middle of nowhere, and for a percentage of the X thousands of people in the country, it's like a 2-hour trip to go and watch a game of cricket that doesn't feature the team that you support in the middle of the morning. It's not a tournament designed with the actual attending fan in mind.
The fan in mind.
Yeah.
The local fan.
Matt,
Funny that.
Max, we should probably make some predictions about who will go through from this group.
Yes, well, I feel in my bones that it'll be South Africa and England. I think we'll get enough cricket today for England to do what they need to do against the USA, and then South Africa win the game and they're through. And they've been iffy at times, and all their wins have been close. So I'd be loath to rule West Indies out, but I feel like South Africa have got the measure of them. With West Indies, I sort of feel like they're a kind of England but flipped over. England's batting's all boom or bust. I think the West Indies batting's actually pretty reliable. It bats deep. They've got good options, but their bowling could get flayed. Their bowling could either be totally elite or just get absolutely flayed. And so kind of looking at the way England are and flipping it on its head. But I'm going to go South Africa just because I've been quite impressed with how they've won those close games in this tournament so far, and they're probably due a big performance, and then they'll lose immediately in the knockouts because it's South Africa.
I think West Indies will do it. Yeah, I think at home. I think that we want to see a crowd. I think there'll be a big crowd in for this game.
I'd hope so.
It's a de facto quarter-final. It's actually on a reasonable time. It's an evening game in West Indies. There's a little rivalry between West Indies and South Africa historically as well. So I think there'll be people out for that. I think West Indies will be buoyed by that crowd, and I think Andre Russell will hit 90 off 30 balls.
Nice. Okay.
Buran will hit 150 at the other end, and South Africa won't know what hit them.
All right.
That's my outrageous prediction.
That'd be good. That'd be good fun. Be good to watch.
Max, I think we might have a couple of questions in, so we're going to take a really quick break. If anyone wants to ask a question in the live chat, get it in now, and Max will read that. And we probably need. We've actually only got one question, so we do need some questions. We shall be back in a second after this break.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast for probably a handful of questions before we wrap things up. Shivansh has asked, and we don't normally talk about this sort of thing, who are you going to support, India or Australia, in that big game coming up, Max?
Who are we supporting?
Yeah,
that's a good question. Yeah, that is a good question. I'm gonna say India because I'm sick of Australia winning, and I want to see some fresh blood in the semis.
I agree with that. I think if it was like a straight knockout game, I'd maybe think about that differently.
Yeah,
I think.
Cards on the table, right? One day World Cup final. It was Australia because it would have been funniest, and it was funny.
Yeah, yes.
But in this situation, the shoe's on the other foot.
I would, absolutely. I think it would be hilarious if Australia got eliminated because they didn't take a match against Afghanistan seriously enough. Like it would just be, one of those chef's kiss moments. I mean, like if the 50 over World Cup, the game that they had to Maxwell had to miraculously pull it out of his cramped up arse to win, wasn't warning enough that there actually isn't that much of a margin of difference between these two teams. Like the game we saw the other night, that was the comeuppance. It was really nice, and it would be quite funny if India put the nail in the coffin. And then what will definitely happen is that people get really hyped up about India having put to bed some sort of curse. I love it when people are like, "Oh, the curse is gone." And then
some old witch in the jungle has just died, and the curse has been lifted.
The curse is gone, and then the curse comes back immediately when West Indies knock them out in the next round. That's, I think, the perfect trajectory for those two games. So, to answer the question, it's India for now. But we're going to reevaluate that
until it's funnier if they lose.
We're
supporting the funny outcome from our point of view.
No, I'm supporting West Indies winning the tournament. That's the outcome that I want most. I think that would be. I think that would be kind of, and the reason for that, I think it would be, obviously it would be good for the people that actually do get to go and watch the games. And I'm in the camp of anybody that turns up and watches the game of cricket live. I want those people to be happy first. I also think it might be the worst outcome for the ICC in terms of cash if the final is something like West Indies v Afghanistan, and that's what we all should be rooting for. Is the ICC having to have difficult conversations with Indian broadcasters about how potentially we can make it easier for India to make it to the final in the next competition. We want them to have to answer those difficult questions
in public.
So yes, exactly. We did get asked on Twitter by a guy whose username is just a full stop, period. Do Australia regret not using Jake Fraser-McGurk?
I'm going to say no, because they've already been a bit flimsy at times with their opening partnership, and I think I don't think what Australia have lacked, I suppose, is firepower with the bat, because this isn't the kind of tournament where that's been the way to go, is it? Because the pitches they've had plenty in it for the bowlers, basically. So I'm not 100% sure that Fraser-McGurk is the kind of player that you'd need on those surfaces. If we're looking at better batting pitches, then like he's it's just such a talent that could break a game open for you in the space of 18 balls. But I do wonder if, on pitches like this, maybe Fraser-McGurk would have struggled a bit more and, not been able to see his qualities. So I think on balance, probably not. But
yeah, I kind of agree. I think I was looking at the top run scorers earlier in the tournament. Head and Warner are in the top 10.
Yeah.
Top 7 or 8 even, and both of them have scored pretty quickly, and I think they've basically done the job. Obviously they screwed up against Afghanistan, and then the rest of the batting lineup couldn't bail them out, but I think that is on the rest of the batting lineup. I don't think you can blame the two guys who have been good in every other game basically for not being good once.
Yeah,
like that happens a lot. Noah has sent us a super chat, so thank you very much for the super chat, saying England will win v India in the semi-final. They're the favourite. That's a possibility, actually, isn't it? That if South Africa win, it's an England-India repeat semi-final in Guyana. I think India are probably the favourites. So I think that doesn't match up that well.
In Guyana, yeah,
but you kind of never know as well. Like I was saying much earlier in the show, like India would be the favourites, but like pretty marginally. England have got some good spin bowlers. Like it's not on balance.
Adil Rashid and Moeen Ali both love a wonder ball against Virat Kohli. They've got they both got that up their sleeve.
You've got that. On balance, you'd probably take Jadeja, Akshar, and Kuldeep over Adil Rashid, Moeen and Liam Livingstone. But the England trio take a lot of wickets. They get people out. Like, Livingstone's a little bit of a joke bowler, bowling all sorts of weird stuff. But the guy takes wickets. He takes more wickets than Jadeja in terms of like strike rate. That's a very useful thing to do. And it's really not inconceivable that, one or two or all three of them have a good game for India, and if it is a spinning pitch like we kind of expect it to be,
kind of levels it out, doesn't it?
Yeah. Obviously, there's the whole Bumrah factor, and even if it is a spinning pitch, you still think his 4 overs are going to beat anything that England can offer in the seam department. But there's England have got some good players, and. Do you remember there was a game in the IPL between Rajasthan and Mumbai, and Bumrah was on a real tear. He was ripping teams to shreds, and we had a theory that Rajasthan were one of the teams in the tournament that wouldn't struggle that much against him because they have some proper batters in their lineup. Jaiswal and Samson and Joss Buttler. It's not like random sloggers. Like they're guys with actual technique. England do have some guys with actual technique. Like it's not it's not a complete cheat code just bowling Bumrah to Buttler. Buttler is quite happy to play him out, knowing that later on he will smash somebody. Like he's got range to his game. He doesn't just have to mindlessly hit from ball one. Phil Salt maybe not so much, but then further down that England batting order, there are guys who are capable of doing that. So I don't know. I think it'd be an interesting game. I think India would be favourites. I kind of want it to be West Indies for India because I want to see that dynamic where India actually don't have the support of the crowd and there are people actively rooting against them. I don't see that very often. But yeah, that's my thoughts on.
I don't know, maybe that will lift the pressure.
Max, who is the best bowling lineup between South Africa and India in the World Cup so far?
Yeah, it's another good question. I think probably I'd go India, but it's marginal. I think India have got I think in terms of the whole squad, the options are deeper. You've got Akshar, Jadeja, and Kuldeep in the spin department, and then Arshdeep Bumrah, Siraj. But in terms of like your main weapons, I mean, South Africa are right up there, you know, with Nortje and Maharaj and Rabada. But I just think India probably a little bit more depth in terms of like the fifth option. Marco Jansen can be a bit hot and cold. I suppose so can, you know, Siraj. But I think it's probably with the way the spinning tracks have gone, I'd lean India.
I think in the conditions we've seen so far, India have probably got a better attack. It's a little bit hard to judge. Obviously, they've all played different teams, and I would say overall,
and they've all played at New York.
Yeah, I would say overall, South Africa probably had to play against better teams than India, and so if you look at them kind of side by side, India probably have better numbers, and they look like they have outperformed South Africa. But South Africa's bowlers have bowled them to victory in some pretty tough games. Against Bangladesh, against England. I know Bangladesh aren't an amazing cricket side, but they're better than like Canada. You know what I mean? They're better than the USA. Well, actually, they lost 2 out of 3 recently, so maybe maybe Bangladesh aren't. But I think what I'm saying is that South Africa have probably lent on their bowlers a bit more than they would have expected, and the bowlers have stood up really well. Albeit that in these conditions, I would probably take India's team if I had the option. Final question from Noet, who says, "Do you think Bangladesh can go soft on Afghanistan if Australia defeat India?" So is this? I think this is a scenario where. So we didn't talk about this earlier, but India could go out in this stage. They could do a South Africa and lose 1 game for the tournament, somehow have a really good net run rate and still somehow go out. But I think it's a pretty edge case scenario. So India would have to themselves lose quite badly to Australia, by in the order of 50 runs, something like that, which seems unrealistic. Like I'm gonna quickly check where the game is being played, because not every venue's so Bairstow, that's a Darren Sammy ground, isn't it? In St. Lucia. I like winning by 50 runs there is quite difficult because there just aren't that many runs scored there. Then Afghanistan would have to demolish Bangladesh. Would Bangladesh, Max, throw a game against Afghanistan to enable?
I mean, if there's one guy in world cricket who would instruct his side to do it, then Shakib is your man, right? I can't see it, but it would be a story for the ages. It would make sure that Bangladesh are never allowed to play cricket ever again. So I don't think they'd risk it. It's possible it could happen organically, of course, because Bangladesh have got they've got it in their locker to be completely terrible, and
Bangladesh could lose by 100 runs to anyone.
Yeah, naturally. So I'm not going to rule out the outcome, but I'm not going to go so far as to say the scenario would be that Bangladesh throw it.
Yeah, this is in St. Vincent. This one there's not really been that much cricket played at St. Vincent recently, so I don't really know what could happen there. There was a game earlier in the comp. I think South Africa played something on there. That would be. I mean, we're talking about funny outcomes. If somehow from this position India didn't get through to the semi-finals, I think they might have to cancel cricket. Like, I think that could just be the end of it. Like, yeah. No more international cricket, just IPLs from now on. Max, I think we're done. We'll be back after the Super 8s, so they wrap up on Tuesday. We'll get a show in on Tuesday at some point before the semi-finals, which both take place on Thursday, and then we'll have more shows coming up after that. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.